Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope you're having a great week thus far and a great 2025 still. Um, I've got so much to talk about, so many different topics, but uh, one of the things that kind of, when I do my videos, I talk about things that typically kind of are like talked about a lot, in like the recent week or days. And I thought, you know what, going into 2025, this is something that I think that we all need to be reminded of and or to be aware of, especially for those of you that are new to the industry. Okay. And these are some trucking scams. Some of it I'm going to show you. And there's also, scams out there preying on, brokers and new brokers. And I want to see everybody be successful this year, to make it a better year. I don't have a crystal ball on rates, right? I don't. Last data that I have is, again, we will see an uptick in the market. Will it be super significant? No. At least at this point, we'll be hitting into produce season, in about a month or so. We will start to see an uptick in that regard. But, overall, I think for the year, it's going to be, I think it'll be a little bit better than 2024. I don't think it'll be a boom like in 2020 or 2018, right? But without any further ado, I kind of wanted to talk about like a lot of these scams that are sort of affecting the industry. And I realized that there's a lot more scams out there than what I'm able to show you, because otherwise we'd be here, for months probably, right? Discussing all of this. So I just kind of wanted to point out a couple. If you have any more that you would like to add, leave a comment in the description down below. And without any further ado, let's get into this. I'm going to screen share with you. All right, and away we go.
In an undercover inquiry into these guys that are claiming that with $20,000 they can help you start your own trucking company, get you into a truck, all of these things. Ready? This is a double brokering ring. A lot of these guys, not all of them, a lot of these guys are a double brokering ring. And what is happening in the industry is that there are running out of options. Brokers are uniting in the industry to crack down and stop double brokering rings. So there are Indian offices on Indian soil, Ukrainian, Armenian, foreign offices, right? Like not on U.S. soil. I don't mean foreign nationality. I mean foreign as in not on U.S. soil, along with reps that they have here in the United States. Okay, so
let me just pause there real briefly. This is something that I have, it's sort of touched a nerve with me. And something that I've talked about in previous videos, and that is that I do not believe that outside entities, right, those that are based in other countries, should be allowed to do work here in the U.S., right? Regardless of the industry, for the most part, and there might be a few situations, but for the most part, with our industry, I don't think that it should be allowed. We've seen too much fraud, too much double brokering, too many scams and things, and then they just cut bait and run, right? Leaving everybody in the industry to kind of hold the bag, whether you're a carrier or a broker, right? And we're going to kind of get a little bit more in depth. I'm going to continue on with the video, but what are your thoughts? Is it okay to use, these outside dispatch services or, brokers from, another country being allowed to broker freight in the U.S.? Personally, I don't think so. And correct me if I'm wrong. And I agree with this lady here.
It's a very intricate, large ring of double brokering, and they are running out of options. So what they are doing is recruiting young kids, people with a little bit of money in the bank. They're enticing you to go get your MC number, your authority. They're assisting you in getting that information. They're getting you into a truck. They're helping you with your insurance. They're doing all of that stuff, which is admirable. But then in turn, they put you into these terrible lease agreements. They put you into these trailer lease agreements that aren't fair. They prey on people with little to no credit that just have cash because they want your cash. They're going to put you into some sort of piece of shit truck. They're going to recommend that you use their network. Like, it's just, there should be red flags if you are going through this already. So please be careful. So what they then do is they help you get your MC number, your authority. By the way, you can do for like $250, $300. Okay. So if you're paying $1,500, $1,600 for somebody to help you get your authority, your business license, your LLC, you can do that for less than $1,000. I'm just going to say that right now. Telling you to have, $10,000, $20,000 in the bank. They're getting you into these shitty circumstances. And then what happens is they put you out into the road. And maybe they talk you into running for them. But what you don't realize is that they are double brokering loads with your information. Okay. So they get you out, they say that they're running you, but then they're booking load after load after load. You're one truck. Maybe you've got an inspection. You don't even know what's going on. You have no idea of what's going on, but they're booking loads with your information, and then they're turning around with their brokerage MC and they're posting those loads back out, and they're double brokering, and you have no idea because they help set up your company. They probably had you sign over power of attorney at some point. Like, guys, be careful. Be careful.
As far as double brokering is concerned, this is what.
Okay. So this is, again, why I am kind of against, sort of led me into another thought of why I am not a fan of co-brokering even, because, and again, there is a difference between co-brokering and double brokering. And I know I've talked to some of you guys in the past, whether it was on Facebook or whatever, and they're like, well, double brokering is double brokering. I don't give a damn what, how you want to term, what term you want to use for either one. It's double brokering is double brokering. Well, yes and no. It is co-brokering is where there is an agreement, there is transparency, right? And everything's above board, right? Now everybody's trying to get their cut on the load. The problem being is that if you are broker A, right, and you co-broker a load to broker B, who turns around and should be vetting their carrier, right? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe their vetting process isn't that extensive, right? And they broker the load to, carrier A, who is a double broker, right? Who's going to turn around and double broker that load to some other unsuspecting owner operator, or small fleet owner who just said, yeah, send it over, we'll get it done, and they might post the load. Maybe it was paying $3,000, let's just say, hypothetically, right? And they post it out there for $4,500 or $5,000, right? They're double brokering the load. They have no intentions on paying the, carrier B, right? And so this is, again, why I am not a fan of brokers co-brokering. It's just something that you run into a lot of risk. I think that you end up putting other carriers at risk, right? Because they inevitably will end up falling victim to this to carrier A, who double brokered the load to carrier B, right? So while some of you carriers are not a fan of things like highway, and all the constant checks, this is like a huge part of the problem, right? With all the double brokering amongst all the other numerous scams that are going on out there. But when you look at it, you're looking at it from your own point of view, but versus, what I mean? This has become a necessity in our industry because of all the rampant fraud and double brokering and things. And inevitably we'll end up saving, potentially another carrier from getting double brokered. It might even save you, right? There might be just some little thing that's wrong, some little red flag that you didn't catch in on, and maybe you got in a hurry, right? You're maybe running out of hours, and you're like, well, if I can get this load, I can run for another 3 or 4 hours before I have to stop. Whatever, you got in a yank, it's the end of the day. Yep, send it over. I hear these stories too many times. I get too many emails, too many phone calls from carriers, and some of you should know better, right? Some of you should be vetting your broker, running credit checks, looking at that rate confirmation. There was one that I saw. It looked like it was copy and pasted together by a 3-year-old, right? It was atrocious. It was crooked, each section on there. It was super bad, right? And this owner operator had been in business for I think 3 or 4 years, and so by then he probably should have known better. But it happens, right? There was other red flags, but I'm not going to get into it. But he ended up getting double brokered, right? And broker A gave the load they didn't co-broker the load. They gave it to carrier A, but they didn't vet them. The carrier A didn't even have the right equipment type to accept that load, right? So it was a lack of vetting. It was complacency. It was just get it covered at whatever cost, right? Kind of a thing. And inevitably, multiple people were affected. The shipper, broker A, carrier B. It becomes a huge trickle, right? A trickle down effect. So here's another one that I want to share with you. Let me switch this up here. Bear with me one moment. Where is mine? Nope. That's the one. Okay. Let's all listen in on this. Now, this is a truck driving school scam that they're running in Canada.
Truck driving school?
It starts in training yards like this one.
Yeah, I'm looking to get my license.
We come with hidden cameras after hearing we might be offered some shortcuts.
When can I start? Like tomorrow, today?
1 or 3 hours completed, it doesn't matter you are completed or not. Maybe you will ready in 90 hours, doesn't matter.
A third of the time is supposed to be spent in a separate classroom learning theory. Not here.
No in class. No need for in the class.
Okay.
No theory, nothing. No.
Before your road test, I will train you 100% for everything.
Everything is here.
Everything is here.
Any classroom or anything?
Classroom, I will cover everything here.
Is this truck?
Okay, so here's another truck driving school scam, right? And I'm only going over a few of these because, like I said, we would literally be here for days, weeks, months, maybe the entire year discussing this. But again, these are some pitfalls, some scams and things that hopefully will save you in the coming year, right? Maybe you've already fallen victim to some of these, but let's move on to the next one here. And I apologize. Oh, I should have been able to do that without doing this. Okay, there we go. All right.
Figure out what double brokers are doing to circumvent the system. They're pretending to be dispatch services. We had a dispatch service story time. Let me just give you a story time. We have a dispatch service with no company name. Their emails are dispatch team 032.
It's dispatch team, 3 digits.
3 digits,
And
dispatch
all-
team,
yeah.
all at Gmail. All with Arizona phone numbers. This is probably our boy here, like the G-face stuff, right? Like this is what he's got you guys doing. All Arizona phone numbers linked to a bunch of MC numbers out of Kentucky, Indiana, Wisconsin, and I think Ohio were the ones that we tied to it. I mean, there was like 25 MC numbers that we linked to these phone numbers and these email addresses today. And we just blackballed them all. We sure did. And I don't feel bad about it. I don't feel bad about it. When you got 4 dispatchers, Bill, Kevin, Robert, and something else, Robert Smith, Bill, like, come on, guys, giving MC numbers out of Kentucky. 4 different MC numbers out of Louisville, Kentucky, all within 5 miles of each other, by the way. Like, what are the odds of that? So that's what they're doing. They're signing up as legitimate trucking companies, maybe one truck operations, and they maybe have a truck. But then they are booking loads after load after load after load after load. We cut them all off today. Like, we're gonna just start paying attention to that stuff. We're gonna start running your phone numbers, your email addresses, your BIN numbers. We're running everything. And if we find you tied to a bunch of other stuff, we're shutting it all off. Not only are we gonna shut it all off, but we're gonna file freight guard reports to let other brokers know. And that's what we're gonna do.
See, and this is something else. You know, this saves other carriers, right? If you're a broker watching this and you're not properly vetting your carriers, you're opening other carriers up to being double brokered. Okay, this is an interesting one that I'm going to share.
Here's a story of a time I booked a double broker load. Before contacting the broker, I did a credit check on the broker with the factoring company, and it came back approved. I contacted the broker, negotiated on the load, and completed all the paperwork needed to get set up. After the driver picked up the load, the broker kept calling me, asking me to email him the BOL.
That's
that was
warning number 1.
Interesting because most brokers ask for the BOL upon delivery of the load.
Right.
I asked the driver to email me the BOL, and before I sent it to the broker, I took a quick glance at it and noticed there was another broker listed on the BOL. I quickly called the broker listed on the BOL, and they told me they brokered this load
To another carrier, right? So pay attention to your paperwork. It's I'm not going to say it's too late once you've delivered the load, but it creates quite a hassle, right? And if you're not factoring, or maybe you were expecting quick pay from that broker, which in my opinion and logically speaking, if you're living on quick pay from a broker versus factoring with a company like Operfi, which if you want to talk to Operfi, they have no long-term contracts. They got fuel card. They've got a network of things to help you grow and be successful. There's a link in the description down below. If you're living on quick pay from the broker, it's a complete, I don't know what you're doing with your life. But you know, if you're not factoring, if you're not living on quick pay, you know, you're waiting to get paid in your 30 days, hopefully less from the broker, but now you're double brokered and it's like going on day 45, day 60. You don't even, you know, sometimes, you know, this individual was fortunate enough to see that broker A was listed on the paperwork, and that's not always the case, right? So you might not even know that you got double brokered. Just the broker that you booked the load with, right, who was a double broker, is ghosting you now when it comes to payment, right? And it's not just carriers that are getting scammed. It's new brokers coming into the industry too. Well, I should say especially new brokers. Because like I have an individual that I'm working with currently and mentoring, and just one amongst many where they're putting thousands upon thousands of dollars into quote unquote legitimate training, right? And some, they may, you know, have some classwork and kind of go over things, and they'll promise you mentorship and help you do this and do that, but then they just cut bait and run, right? Well, you've got everything that you need. Go do, you know, everything on your own. Also, a majority of these freight broker training schools are incomplete because a lot of people that come into this industry to start off as a new broker, they don't have any prior experience, right? Is it impossible to be successful without prior experience? No, but you are very much behind without having any prior industry knowledge as, say, a carrier or as a freight agent. Okay. If you come from one side or the other, it will help you be, you have a little bit, you have a few steps further in. But for a lot of people, maybe they didn't even know what a freight broker was, right, prior to. But someone told them there's vast amounts of money to be made in the trucking industry, and go be a freight broker, and the world will turn and everything will be sunshine, rainbows, and unicorn parts, whatever, right? It's all a big sham. They'll promise you the moon, the stars. And there was one lady that I talked to. She was on her third training class, and all three times they had taken her money, and I believe the lowest amount that they got her for was like $1,800, and it just went up from there. And each time they got her money, they cut bait and run. She never heard from them again, right? And it's unfortunate, and my heart goes out to a lot of you, regardless of what side of the table you're on, whether you're a carrier or a broker or looking to be a broker agent, and you got scammed, right? It's rampant. The phishing emails, and all of that. Not to mention, and I'm going to wrap this up here shortly, but a lot of these other YouTube channels that are out there that are claiming that 99% of all brokers are scamming carriers. Well, based on what data? Right? That's just not the case. But they've got these outrageous titles, these outrageous claims without anything to back it up. Right? Or you come across some of these that, I did this load, and, I said, well, I'm going to need, $600 to do this 125-mile run in my box truck. And the broker said, well, let me check. And they called me back and they said, yeah, we can do $600. So, and then there was people commenting, oh, well, that broker got $1,200 to do that. Because all the brokers get is at least 50%. Really? In what universe, in what world are all brokers making 50% margin? If you go back to one of my previous videos, the data was released, 14.3% is the average. There's only another 2.5% that make over that average, and on the same, and the equivalent of that is there's another 2.5% where brokers lose money on a load, right? So it all balances out, right? And then when it comes down to it, if you're running a lane that should pay, let's just say $2,500, and you accepted 15, and the broker was getting 28 or 3,000, let's just say, right? These are just hypothetical numbers. Whose fault is it? When do we start taking responsibility for our own actions, for our own negotiation, right? When do we start holding ourselves accountable in this industry? Rather than pointing the fingers, right? You think I've never messed up? Of course I've messed up. But it's rare, and it hasn't happened to me in a long time. Knock on wood. Right? So, again, I just wanted to share this with everybody. Start thinking about 2025. Start fresh, especially for some of you that are newer to the industry, right? That don't know any better, or haven't heard this, or you're listening to a bunch of false information and these guys are just fanning the flames. They're not promoting any kind of synergy. They're not offering you any solutions, right? They're not offering you any tips for success. They're not really providing you with any warnings, right? They're just going, so here's a free hot dog. Tell me, what's your biggest problem with the industry? Is it freight brokers? It's freight brokers, isn't it? Right? No, it's not predatory trucking or towing. It's not the high cost of insurance. It's not fuel. It's not the scammers in the industry, right, that are making everything difficult, and why now carriers have to jump through all these different hurdles and things with the vetting software because of all of the fraud in the industry, right? But even some of you that are having to get vetted through some of this software, and well, I'm ELD exempt and I shouldn't have to do this and I shouldn't have to do that. I understand, right? It's a pain in the butt. However, when you look at everything as a whole versus being, and I hate to use this term narrow-minded because I don't want to offend anybody, but rather than looking at things as from our own point of view, you'll understand that a lot of this has become necessary, right? It'll save you. It'll save your brother that's driving in the lane next to you, right? For maybe getting double brokered or scammed, right? This is why we put together the Facebook group. That's why we have this channel and things. It's not just for brokers, it's for carriers, it's for everybody in the industry to help grow and be more successful, to share ideas, to network, right? So that we can all be successful and avoid a lot of the pitfalls and traps and things that diminish our bottom line, right? Or end up putting us out of business. It's just like I was talking about earlier, which I meant to kind of elaborate on just real brief here, is that a lot of these new people that come into the industry as freight brokers, they don't tell them, oh, go be a freight agent, and get a mentor and, learn the industry, pick up some customers and things before you jump in and start your own brokerage, right? And we can offer you this at an additional cost, and we can offer you that, and we'll do this and we'll do that. And they're really not providing any value whatsoever, right? These people go out, they get their authority, they get set up, and they've got reoccurring monthly costs with their load boards, their TMS, and some of them are very expensive. And some of these training schools will say, oh, well, you need to have this one, and it's costing them, $1,000 a month or more, and you just don't need all of that. And you're going to need a phone system, and we're going to set this up, and blah 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 blah, but you're going to do it through them, right? And it's going to cost you X amount more money. You're going to need the best plan on truck stop and DAT, and you're going to need 1, 2, 3, and you're going to need this, and you're going to need that, and you've got half a dozen different load boards out there, and you don't even have a single customer yet. And they haven't taught you how to get a customer yet. They haven't told you that without credit, without a days to pay, you have no score, no anything. Why would a carrier book a load with you? You haven't proven yourself. You're the new kid on the block. Why would a customer or a shipper entrust you with their freight? Right? So there's scams all across the industry on both sides of the table, whether you're from the brokerage side, the carrier, or the carrier side. There's scams everywhere. And we really need to fight back on that, because I think that's one of the biggest problems fighting our industry today. And I believe that if the FMCSA did more to vet new authorities, those applying for new authority, to find out where they're actually from. I've in previous videos, I've looked up, I've had carriers call me, and they had one truck, right, or a box truck or something that just probably sat on a back lot, right. And they wanted this load. They didn't have the right equipment type. And when I looked up the address, it went to an apartment building. I've seen it. I've seen them go to a Goodwill, a Salvation Army, a church. It went to what do they call them, like the UPS or a Staples, the virtual PO boxes, whatever, or to an office, and there's nobody there. There's like a 4 foot by 4 foot room with a little mini desk, like maybe from school, and a chair and a phone sitting there. Sometimes there's not even a phone, right? Clearly scammers, clearly double brokers. And when we look up, where their IP address is coming from, if they're using a VoIP phone, all of these kinds of things are all red flags, are all warning things, right? But this is what I do as a broker, right? When I'm brokering loads, to vet that carrier. These are all the steps and things that I have to do with a new carrier, right, to make sure that they're on the up and up and they're not double brokering a load to you. Okay, so that's my rant. I hope everybody took something away from this, and it was helpful in helping you avoid some of these scams and things that are in our industry. And if you have something that, again, that I didn't bring up, like I said, we could probably talk about this for days, weeks, months, all the different scams and things, whether it's with leases or whatever, right? Drop a comment in the description below. Let me know. Maybe we'll talk about it on a future video. But yeah, I just want everybody going into 2025 avoiding some of these pitfalls. With that, I will let you get back to the rest of your day without taking up too much of your time. I hope everybody has a great week. And as always, be kind to one another. Bye-bye now.